Hello and welcome to Walk the Cinema podcast. Today we're joined by a guest, Eric from Find Your Film. So we're going to let Eric introduce himself and his projects because I know he has multiple.
Yes. My name is Eric. I am on a film podcast. You don't see many of those online.
No.
I believe this one and mine are the only two that exist.
Yes.
That's absolutely not true, obviously. But I do a podcast with my friends Bruce and Greg called Find Your Film. And we talk about upcoming movies. We usually hew to indie movies, smaller movies. Lots of people do the big blockbusters that come out, and that's their space. We kind of go on find our own little corner of the internet, and not many people talk about Pleasure or Lose the Flower of Evil or The Long Walk, movies like that. And so we like to spotlight those because unfortunately there's a bunch of great movies coming out any given year, and it doesn't seem like many people talk about them often. So that's what we do.
And speaking of great movies people don't talk about too often, we have today's movie, The Last Man on Earth, which you picked. So I'll let you also describe the movie for us.
Yeah, so I picked this one. I'm actually a fan of the book that this is based on, I Am Legend, written by Richard Matheson. And I believe Richard Matheson wrote the screenplay for this movie.
Yeah, I think he did it under a pen name or something.
Yeah, it was Logan Swanson. He wasn't too happy with how the movie turned out, and we'll get there. But I don't know. I guess the reason why I want to talk about this is because it also allows me to talk about I Am Legend, the book, which I'm in love with. And this movie is probably the closest to the book, but it doesn't quite nail it. None of the movies really have. But this one, I think the story beats are there, but I think the direction is kind of lacking. Because it's when in the movie, or I'm sorry, in the book, his name's Robert Neville in the book. In the movie, it's Robert Morgan, and that's the only name they changed. Ben Cortman in the book. For some reason, they changed him to Robert Morgan. I have no idea why, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Actually, before I go into it, I'm kind of curious what you guys think. Have you guys read the book at all?
No. I had seen the movie before, but I never read the book.
Okay, yeah, the Will Smith movie.
I haven't seen that one. No.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
I've only seen parts of that one. I've always steered clear from it because I think I remember there was like a dog in the I Am Legend, and I was just always steered clear from it because I was too sad about the dog not making it to the end.
We also have never seen Omega Man.
Yeah.
So we've only seen this one. I've seen this one a couple times, but yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, this one I think I Am Legend is the better movie, like as movies go. But as far as adaptations, this one's probably the closest to the book, I think. But I'm kind of curious because I remember you guys were talking about Dune, and Dune didn't really sit with you guys. Probably because you saw half a movie.
Right.
Most people that haven't read the book only saw half a movie. So to say that, I don't get it. I'm like, no, I get it because I know what's coming in part 2, and hopefully that'll change things. But I'm kind of curious what you thought of this movie, not being familiar with the book.
Well, the story is the most interesting part, right? They didn't have a budget or a great director. They didn't have Vincent Price, but he kind of fell flat at points. So the story really carried the movie all the way through. I do think it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, I also thought it was an enjoyable watch. I don't think it's amazing, but it did make me kind of want to read the book to kind of get a fuller experience. I think that as a movie, it does kind of fall flat in the second third of the movie when he goes back in time and stuff, because I like how it opens where we just have this man who you kind of piece together that he's all alone. He's been like this for 3 years. He has his routine, and then it kind of stops that and then goes all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know if the book does that. You would know if the book is flashback.
The book does flashbacks. One of the main changes they made is in the Last Man on Earth, this movie, he's a scientist. In the book, he's not. he becomes a scientist out of necessity, because he notices things about the vampires. It's like, they hate garlic. Why is this? And then they'll have a whole chapter devoted to him just studying garlic. Like, what are the properties of this? And then he'll find the bacilli and mix that in with the garlic, and it doesn't do anything. It's like, oh, and he starts going crazy. It's like, why can't I figure this out?
Yeah.
And so, they kind of folded that into the flashbacks, which there were flashbacks in the book, but there weren't flashbacks like portrayed in the movie. I think they did that to kind of condense the two ideas, the flashbacks and because how cinematic is it to just have someone looking inside a microscope for 2 hours?
Yeah, it
Not
makes
that
sense
exciting.
as an adaptation.
Yeah.
But like you read it and it's like, oh wow, cool. This is how he's doing.
Mhm.
This is how he's doing the science, and so this is really interesting. So I thought that was probably a good move that they squished that together in the movie. Sorry, my brain goes everywhere sometimes. I haven't even
That's
started
okay.
drinking yet, so
Yeah.
I also need to know if he gets bitten by a bat in Panama in the book, because
yeah,
that was a little funny.
yeah, it's so in the book, he just kind of says it in passing. It's like, why are you mooning? He's like, I don't know. The best I can come up with is a bat bit me once and I killed it.
Okay.
And he's a scientist, so that's not something that he's like, this is why it is. It's just that's the best I
His
can come
theory.
up with. Probably not,
Yeah.
but who knows? Could just be genetics. But
Sure.
if that's the case, you figure there'd be more than one, and there very may well be, because he can only go, he can only go so far.
Yeah. In his world, he is the only person
Yeah.
alive because,
Well, and at the end, he just shouts that he's the only man alive because he feels like he's the only human, and everyone else is not human anymore.
yeah.
I'm a man,
Yeah.
the last man.
Vincent Price.
Yeah. I mean, I love Vincent Price. He's always entertaining.
Yeah, I love him. He's great.
And I think that he definitely fit the look of a lonely science man.
Yeah, you said they consider Harrison Ford or something?
I think what I read was that in a perfect world, the author would have picked Harrison Ford to play the lead.
I could see that.
Apparently, The Last Man on Earth was originally supposed to be directed by Fritz Lang.
Yeah, that's
what I
saw.
Too.
And then they couldn't get him, and they got the guy I guess they got two credited directors. I don't remember their names. You got the one director who directed the version we saw, and then someone else. I guess the
Italian.
Shot a scene and then shot the same scene with them speaking Italian. I assume. I think they did that a lot with like giallo movies or spaghetti westerns. Maybe
they did that with everyone spoke their own language, but in this, it actually felt like, from watching, it felt like they re-recorded the audio in a booth.
Oh yeah,
at least for a lot of the scenes, but I can't guarantee that.
Yeah.
But losing Fritz Lang is a blow, because he's one of the best directors of all time, in my opinion, and he could have killed this.
Yeah.
But I think the budget is way too small for Fritz Lang and Harrison Ford. So the author, I get it's his book and he really wants the best for his book, but realistically, it just couldn't happen. We watched the movie and there was no budget.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a budget. There's enough for Vincent Price and some sets, but that was about it.
I think what would be really fun, because the script's not bad. There's exposition, as there is in most movies, but taking this movie word for word, like just say you transcribe the movie exactly as it is, and then just have someone else direct it, new actors, really get performances. I wonder if this movie hits as hard as the book does, because one of the hallmarks of the book, how are we on spoilers? Yay, nay?
Yeah, we're spoiler. You can spoil.
I mean,
that's
okay.
what we do.
So at the end of the movie and the book is really similar. That he, during the day he kills vampires, because all he knows of the vampires are the assholes hanging outside his house. One of them was a friend of his. They're real close, And fuck, even Ben Cortman, like I used to love that guy, and he's a piece of shit. Like this is what this disease does to people.
Mhm.
Right.
And so during the day, he'll go out and kill them. What he doesn't realize is that a lot of the vampires he's killing are just innocent people, and so that's why he's oh geez, once I'm dead, they're gonna tell stories about the daywalker who would go and kill children in their sleep. So
Yeah.
I'm the legend, like we had vampire legends when humans ruled the earth. Now the vampires ruled the earth. I'm the legend. And so in the book, it really hits hard. And in this, it's I'm a man. I'm the last man. It's like
Yeah.
The movie can feel hokey, and I think the ending shouldn't feel hokey, but it does a little. You're right. And
yeah.
I mean, it's not super impactful. I'm not like emotional at any part of this. Even when the dog dies, it's just, the dog was there for 3 minutes, maybe not even that
Yeah.
long.
Well, that's another thing in the book. It spends a whole chapter of him. I don't know how much time he spent, like months, trying to gain the dog's trust. And then when he finally gets the dog close enough, he just grabs the dog, and the dog starts freaking out and gets, he brings the dog inside because he doesn't want the dog to get bitten by the vampires.
Right.
And then night falls, and the dog's used to burying itself underground to hide from the vampires. Well, now he's inside, and just like the dog's freaking out, just scratching at the wood floors. And he can't even go near the dog because the dog will just snap at him once and this is after months when he finally got the dog to trust him. Now the dog just hates him and just sees him as an enemy. It's really heartbreaking in the book. And then the dog dies in the book too. It's he's like, don't worry, buddy, don't worry, boy, I'm gonna cure you and this and that. And then the next page, a week later, the dog was dead. I'm like, oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah, that sounds a lot more emotional.
But it does the work, letting you into his relationship with the dog. It makes you care. And then this kind of just blows by it real quick.
It's a really small scene or two. Yeah,
I think it's probably because the movie's less than 90 minutes long.
Yeah. Right. And they didn't have a crazy budget. I don't know how many dogs they could have and train, and they all look the same. And
and just
even when the dog's like inside, because they have that scene with the dog inside, but the dog's just sitting there like,
it doesn't feel like it's a trained dog.
I love you.
I'm not getting much fear out of that dog right now.
Yeah, no. And I think that it definitely did have its limited budget, because I read that it shot in Italy specifically because they needed to cut costs and by not shooting in America because it was going to be too expensive.
Labor laws.
So I feel like this movie kind of feels like it's ahead of its time a little bit.
It was ahead of its time. I will give it that. It did influence one of the greatest zombie movies of all time, in Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's in itself super important, because that movie influenced a lot more movies.
Night of the Living Dead, I don't believe, was a big budget movie either. And they got performances, they got thrills, they got horror in there. So I
think the budget might have been smaller, honestly.
It could have been. I don't know. I'm not that much of a historian, but that speaks to the budget can only you can only forgive so much. Yeah. It's like, oh, we didn't have the budget. It's like, but the dialogue sucks. Like, that's free. That's the writer doing it. You pay the writer. It doesn't cost more money to add commas.
That's true. That is.
It doesn't cost more money to write action instead of exposition.
The Italian actress that plays the main girl, I don't remember her name.
I think her name's Virginia, the wife.
No, not the wife.
The end girl.
Yeah, the end girl.
Oh,
the
Ruth?
mutant girl. Yeah.
Ruth, yes.
Yeah.
That Italian actress is very bad. She's particularly awful, I feel. She delivers nothing.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion. I don't know if she did anything else. I didn't look into anyone's cinematography, but
I didn't consider this, but yeah, if they are Italian actors and they're shooting some of the scenes in English and then going back and reshooting the same scene in Italian, I'm gonna have to do more research, because it almost might be unfair, because if that's not their first language, and
that's not her talking. The talking is definitely done in a booth. I
Oh,
think the
okay.
scene would just Vincent Price would say it in
Yeah.
English and she would reply in Italian, and then they would dub over it.
Yeah.
That's
I
how
think
they
that's-
did most spaghetti westerns and a lot of the giallos.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Either way, I think that's a mistake. And
Yeah, I think it's probably hard. I would assume even if you're speaking in your own language or everyone's speaking a different language,
Yeah.
sometimes you can't like express the emotion correctly
Hmm.
because you're just kind of going off of noise pretty much if you don't understand a language.
Right.
You
oh,
just
like
kind of try
just
to
doing it phonetically. Just kind
yeah,
of doing line reads like, I hope this is good. I don't know.
yeah, kind
And then
of.
everyone's like, you're a terrible actor. I'm like, I did what they told me. I don't
Yeah.
know what you want from me.
But even if the movie itself isn't great, I still love the story, which
Mhm.
is why you picked it
Yeah.
and why this was made in the first place. And I also just love the influence that this had in cinema that people don't really recognize, because this affected George Romero and this created the real zombies that we have now that
Yeah.
aren't vampires. They're actual a different creature.
Yeah.
So that's really
actually
cool.
that's another major change from the book. In the book, they're vampires. They're
Mhm.
pretty lucid. They're not like zombies.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so like Ben, they're outside, they're like, come out, and they're actually taunting them. And it gets like the female vampires try to use their body to entice him out. So it gets it doesn't quite get X-rated in the book, but it's
Mhm.
like it rubs on that. That's
After
probably
3
not
years,
a good
I
way to
mean.
put it, but
After 3 years, a man in a house would look at a vampire and consider it, at least.
yeah,
Maybe not go through with it, but
and that I think that's just for adaptations in general. I think that's a fun thing, at least for me watching the movie, because I know the book so well. Like I'll watch Vincent Price just sit there, like he starts laughing, and then his laugh kind of turns into a cry. I know that scene in the book. I know kind of what he's thinking of, and so I get like scenes like that. I get more out of because I know the context of what that scene's supposed to represent. And
you
then
talking about when the dog dies?
No,
no,
like when he's
this was early on when he's like, and he's like laughing for like 5 minutes, and the laugh
okay,
kind of
yeah.
trickles down into,
Mhm.
oh God.
Yeah, I think it's after he watches the home videos that he had of
Yeah.
his wife
Yeah,
and his
yeah.
kid. And yeah, you kind of
Before the flashback.
before the flashback, you're just kind of piecing together, like
Mhm.
not knowing anything, you're kind of
Yeah.
piecing together that this was his family, this was his life before this massive
Mhm.
illness that had
And
overtaken
I guess
everybody.
it could work in that sense, right? But that scene is just so long of him like
Yeah.
actually in the past
Oh,
that
you-
it kind of ruins the piecing together because they're just showing it to you after a while.
Yeah.
Mm,
So I think it's kind of unnecessary. It does halt the pacing terribly.
Oh,
That's-
you're not wrong, but that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like when you read the book and you're familiar with it, like you get more out of like scenes like that where
Mhm.
mhm.
and to your point, and especially going back to the Dune review, not every you're watching a movie, you're not reading the book.
Right.
So
Exactly,
hey, if you
yeah.
read the book and you get more out of that scene, great. A lot of people are watching the movie, they never read the book, and they don't need to. They came there for the movie. So if you can't
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
that across by itself, then that's a failure on the filmmakers, I think.
And to be fair, we didn't think we were gonna love Dune. We didn't really want to cover it. We kind of just, we
Yeah.
do the Oscar coverage, so that was an essential one.
I
And-
can't wait for Dune 2 to come out, and even if you guys hate it again, which is completely fine, but I cannot wait for the second one to come out, and then you guys
I
go,
just thought it'd be fun.
yep,
but it
still
wasn't.
sucks, and be like, no, at least they saw the whole movie at this point.
Yeah,
True.
I tried to give that the benefit of the doubt because
Yeah.
I did realize that I do have a friend that read the book, and so
Oh,
before
my
I
friends
saw it,
berated me.
yeah, but before I saw it, she was like, "You have to realize that it's not the full thing. You have to watch it
Yeah.
completely." And I was like, "Yeah, I get it. I get it."
Yeah,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it is a failure on the adaptation side of it
Yeah.
Mm.
that it doesn't transpire as a full
For
contained
now,
story.
for now,
Yeah, for now.
For now, sure.
Yes.
if the second one comes out and you still don't get it, then I'd lean heavy on that. I will say, absolute power corrupts absolutely. I will
Okay.
spoil no more on Dune 2.
Okay, sounds good.
It sounds
Yeah,
great.
I feel like
Can't wait.
Adapting books is really hard,
Mm.
especially I think these kind of monumental books, because I think I Am Legend was pretty revolutionary for its time. It influenced a lot of people,
Mhm.
especially like you said, George Romero
Yeah.
based his zombie characters kind of off the vampire characters in it.
It's just the story in
And
general of like the end of the world. And,
yeah, like the
Yeah.
zombie apocalypse type
Mhm.
thing kind of stemmed from this, and I think that that's really important. But I think that a lot of the times when studios or producers want to adapt a book, they kind of take a lot of stuff that makes the books good and just completely throw it away, in my
Right.
opinion. I've seen a lot of book adaptations that just hurt my soul in terms of like being a fan of a
Mm.
book. So
I
I don't
think
know if it's the same
the
with
real
this
problem
movie.
for me is that the movie makes the world feel small.
Mm,
And I don't know if the book does the same, but I would imagine it wouldn't.
It kind of does because
Okay.
his world is small. He can only go so
yeah.
he can only go so far, and once that sun starts going down, he's got to get right back.
No,
Otherwise,
but
he's
not just
effed.
his personal world, but just like it feels like everything's happening around his house and not 10
Yeah.
feet away from the house. They're just
Yeah.
all around the house, and that's where everything happens. Like
Mhm.
that's the hot zone.
Yeah.
It just feels a little like it wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe it would because he's the only one alive. But if the vampires aren't too smart in the movie, how would they know that? Like all of them? I don't know.
Yeah.
It does feel like it's very around the house, which
Mhm.
is
Yeah, and
it's a
in the
cool
book,
house. I like watching the house. I think
in,
the set for the house is probably the best part.
in the book, he does a lot more exploring. They kind of have a little bit of that. They do like a quick montage of him going around killing, and
Yeah.
that's another big part of the book was him going killing, because you need to drive that home to get to really hit on that ending of you've been killing innocent people this whole time, but the only thing they have is that montage at the beginning where she's kind of kind of barely swinging the hammer like
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw
where
that
it's like
too.
like hitting the air.
I feel like I didn't even hear hit the stake. It was just air.
Yeah,
But the first one we see that he killed was like a little girl that was just laying in front of the car,
yeah.
dead, and he picks her up. And that's
Yeah.
a real little girl because he struggled a little.
Yeah.
I know they didn't use dummies for the corpses either.
Mm.
Vincent Price wasn't young, so he struggled a little. And with the hammer, he struggled too.
for this film.
Yeah, and I think
What
that
are you
like it would have
talking about?
the film would have been a little bit more impactful, I guess, if they had extended those kill scenes a little bit longer instead of having like the whole exposition in the middle
Yeah.
part. Maybe cutting that down kind of into a montage and having more along the lines
Yeah.
of his life
Yeah.
in this new world.
And
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah, that might
in,
be nitpicky.
in the book, also, he's killing people throughout. There's even a part because a lot of the vampires he kills are women, and he starts thinking to himself, "Is like, why are you always killing the women?" Like he actually questions himself on that. It's like, am I a misogynist piece of shit? Like that's like that's something that goes through the character's mind in the book.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I guess pretty forward thinking. This came out the book came out in the 50s,
Yeah.
which is funny because he said it in the future, 1976, I believe.
Yeah. A couple of years in the future.
1976, way in the future when we'll have flying
Yeah.
cars and
Yes.
And zombies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still like this.
Mhm.
I still think it has charm.
It definitely has charm.
Compared to the book, it sounds like it's terrible, but I can't compare it to the book directly. And I still think the story comes through
Yeah.
pretty all right. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not great, but it's more about the charm of it. So
Yeah.
we rate
Yeah,
the
they-
movies in this.
I think this one, not so much Omega Man, I guess is fine. But like this one and I Am Legend, like had I not read the book, I'd probably love both movies. But then, but then you got something like Frankenstein, with another movie you guys covered. You read the original Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, that's almost night and day different than what the book is.
Yeah.
But
It still works.
with all the changes they made, they still managed to get what the heart of it is. A man
Yeah.
making a creation, turning his back on it, and then the monster is basically misunderstood. The monster is Frankenstein, not the creature. And so even though they changed a lot of it, they maintained the heart of what Mary Shelley was trying to tell in her original story. And
But to
then
be
also,
fair, in the 30s, it was so much more difficult to adapt a book when you don't have,
Yeah.
huge resource. Dracula's a huge book, and the movie's like an hour and 15 minutes.
yeah,
So they couldn't really adapt it super faithfully.
yeah. I haven't read Dracula, so I can't speak on that. I have seen the movie, but
Yeah, it's been a
that's
while.
been a while.
Yeah,
I
I
wonder-
liked.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I liked. He said something about how he thought that this movie was a good blueprint for other movies like it, and for like the story itself, which I liked how you said that, because it does feel like a good starting point.
Mhm.
It just doesn't hit as hard as I think that they
Yeah.
would have liked
Right.
to have
It feels
hit.
like they could pick and choose certain parts of it and make a better movie with it, but they need this one to exist
Yeah,
for them to be able to do that,
Yeah.
which speaks to its originality.
yeah, I
I,
agree.
I think this is a good example of like and granted, let's say it's not based on a book. Let's say the Last Man on Earth is all there is.
Yeah.
This would be like one of those. It's like that movie's not great, but we should remake that. Like
Yeah, I agree.
there's a seed there that we can plant and make a really strong tree out of. As opposed to go, hey, that movie's great. Let's remake it.
Yeah.
Why? It's already great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
I agree too. I like that it's there and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it's so short that sometimes you just put it on and it's fun. And that's why I gave it a 7 out of 10. I know it might sound high because I said a lot of negatives, but I do like it. And now I want to read the book too, and then I'll probably lower it.
Yeah. Oh, once again. Never mind. Oh, I thought I had the book right over there. I do not. But it's not that long. If you listen to the audiobook, it's like 7 hours. The book itself is like 170 pages.
Oh, that's not long at all.
No.
I think it's under 200 pages. The book's regular novel length. I didn't know this when I was first reading it, so only half of it is I Am Legend, and I'm reading it going, man, there's a lot of book left, and this thing feels like it's wrapping up. And then I get to the last 3 words, I Am Legend. I'm like, whoa, mind blown. So what's the rest of it? Oh, it's just a bunch of short stories after that. Okay, that's so yeah, it's very short book, but it's pretty dense. I would absolutely recommend everyone. But if you haven't seen Last Man on Earth, or you haven't seen I Am Legend or Omega Man, I'm thinking maybe watch those first. So you can kind of get a maybe a similar experience you guys did. As opposed to me, it's like, oh, the book's better. And it's like, okay, well, then I'll read the book second.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
that way I can like 2 things.
I feel like almost every book lover always thinks that the book is way better than the movie. I think
Almost always.
I think there's been one incidence where I've liked the movie better than the book.
What was that?
It's Paper Towns, one of those young adult novels that was written by John Green. I thought they handled the book or the movie way better than
Another
the
young
book.
adult novel. I think The Third Hunger Games is way better movie than it is a book. The book was terrible, so there you go. Young adult movies.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys seen it. It's John C. McGinley. He was in a TV movie called Intensity, based off a Dean Koontz book. Now the Dean Koontz book Intensity is pretty good if you like that sort of thing. Did you guys watch High Tension or High Tension?
I've seen High Tension.
Intensity is the exact same. The High Tension pretty much ripped off Intensity. It's almost the same, and which I guess is fine because the Intensity, the TV movie is really tough to find, but if you can, it's so good. That's a good example of a decent book, and I think the TV movie's as good, if not better, than the book. Fight Club's really similar to the book. Those two are almost like neck and neck. I'm trying to think. Yeah, well, mention Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. The book's great, the movie's great, and then they're both like almost completely different.
Yeah.
Almost completely different stories. But
You
yeah,
can hear the car alarm.
yeah. Knock it off. We get it. They stole your empty beer cans.
But yeah, I think for my rating, I gave this a 6 out of 10. I thought it was a solid movie, still a positive rating, but I don't think, obviously, it's not one of my favorite. I think that because it is the blueprint for these kind of apocalyptic movies, I've seen a lot better.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I do think that seeing this one, it does kind of make sense in the like timeline
Yeah.
of these movies, that this was kind of first of its kind, you know?
Yeah, I still really like it though.
Yeah.
Even if it's not as great, it's more honest, I guess. It's more grassroots. They're just trying to do something great. They didn't achieve it, but they tried.
Yeah. You got to give points for that.
Hmm
It's like the everyone gets a participation trophy. It's a, I am participation.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not a bad movie. I enjoy it. It's really quick.
Yeah,
It's something
it is
that,
really quick.
yeah. I think the first like third of the movie goes by
Yeah,
super quickly.
it's the middle part that gets you. But
Mhm.
besides
there-
that, I
Are,
think it's
are there any books that you guys have read that maybe they have made adaptations of? It's like, oh, I wish they'd go back and do that over, or maybe they have not made adaptations. It's like, oh, that make a really good movie.
Do you have one?
I'm reading Filth and I'm almost over and the movie exists. And I haven't seen it yet though. I can't think of anything else I've read recently.
What's
that
the Filth
has-
movie?
Filth is about a corrupt cop that I don't know. It's hard to explain. That book is very hard
No,
to
but I
explain.
mean, like, what's the movie? Is it available now? Because
Yes,
that does not sound familiar at all.
it's available.
Hold on, I think we have the book right here.
Yeah, the book is not gonna.
This is the book.
Irvin Welsh.
Irvin Welsh.
All right.
He's like,
Yeah, I didn't
Very-
want to Google Filth book because that might mess up my
Yeah.
It's
Google.
from 2013 with James McAvoy.
mhm.
Oh, I
Yeah,
have to look that one up. Is the movie any good though?
I haven't seen it.
Oh,
Yeah,
People
he
think
was-
it's okay.
He wanted
my
to
brain
finish
sucks.
this.
You literally just said that 15 seconds ago.
For me, I don't know. The one that I always come back to, because I read this book series when I was in middle school and high school. It came out like all through my middle school and high school years. Is called the Mortal Instruments, and they made a movie out of it. And it came at the time where they were trying to make the new Harry Potter movie.
Yeah.
They were just trying to make something like a series that they could, milk
Yeah.
and get a lot of money out of. And so it came at that time. So it wasn't very good. I tried to convince myself for years that it was good and that it deserved a sequel and all this other stuff. And it wasn't good. But they did
So-
make they made a TV series out of it that I never watched, but I heard that's at least a little bit better in terms
So
of like,
I did see that movie, and I thought the movie was fine. There was
Yeah.
a part that scary guy that's like he's got a very strange connection with death. Like it's almost like love to him, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember at this point. It's been a while. I just it's like the demon killers and stuff, and
Yeah, it's like he was like her father figure.
yeah, Valentine. I think that was his name, Valentine. Yeah,
And I remember in the movie there was just a little bit. It was something real small with them. It was like, okay, that's kind of a cool idea, and they didn't really expand on it. But I'd actually kind of like to read the book now to see if they kind
Yeah.
of elaborate on that a bit more.
I really liked the book as a teenager. I haven't read it I haven't read the series. It's probably since I was 18, so it's been a few years. But it was good. Like the book was good, and I remember thinking that the movie was just really disappointing. Like it wasn't as fun as the book was, because it's like
Yeah.
it's all teenagers, trying to save the world, and I felt like it lacked a certain charm to it, I guess. Would be the best way to describe it.
The one I thought is something I finished recently. It's The End of the World by Dawn Hartsfield, or Heartfelt, something like that. He's an Oscar-winning director for It's Such a Beautiful Day, or part of it, because he won Best Animated Short. And he also writes books, and that book I think is a better story than most of his movies. So I would like him to adapt that if he's listening for some reason.
I sincerely doubt that.
And if he
we
cares
If
about
you're
my
if you're
opinion.
listening, go ahead and comment below, and we'll get back to you.
can- yeah.
Speaking to anyone else listening, go ahead and comment below a movie book you would like to see adapted.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That will help.
Yeah.
For engagement.
Yeah, we got to engage the audience.
Yeah.
If you think I'm annoying and I talk too much, go ahead and comment below.
Yeah, it's a podcast about talk. You're listening to a podcast of people talking. Like if you find anyone annoying, you can just
Turn it off.
turn it off. Don't listen.
Well, wait until the ad is over and then
Yeah,
turn
then
it
you
off.
can.
If you listen to that and you bought their wares, go ahead and comment below. And
Mhm.
we thank you for that.
But yeah, I think that this pretty much wraps up the movie, I guess.
And the book.
And the book.
I guess we get a 2-for-1 review here.
Yeah.
We talked about
And-
the mortal instruments, and we
Yeah.
talked about
Yep,
we
no.
got a nice full episode in, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. But I think that's all for this episode. So we will see you guys next time.